your boy, the Rocket. No, it's not really. It's actually just Lee Monroe. You know the vibes. First of all, like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Pay respects to elders past, present, and future. Now we like to kick it off right. Massive shout out to the crew. Godpod. We got Ems up in here. We got Ricky up in here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. RJ tonight. Fucking Yetta boys. Esky, love you, bro. Molotov, thank you so much. And I've got to give a special shout out to Ethan up in here because he's coming in, learning the boards and stuff like that. So always welcoming an extra set of hands. So much love to the little homie. And look, special one tonight. I'm stoked. Long-standing hip-hop colleague, I suppose you could say. Urthboy. Far out. Urthboy. Team Urthboy. What'd you say, Urthboy?
Yeah, whatever works.
It's got more pizzazz.
Yeah, it's it's whatever feels comfortable. No, it's good to be here. It's real good to chop it up with you.
Man, you know what? And I'm so stoked. You know, like it's great to have relationships with guys and obviously peers, but also like a big thing that I find that this is really beneficial to is you know knowledge for other guys. You know what I mean? So, and you've got a shit ton of that, no doubt. You know. Well, yeah, like, do I? I don't know, man.
I'm still learning. That's all I know, you know.
Yeah. 100%. Man, first of all, like, you know, we obviously like to give a little bit of knowledge to the guys about where you're from, stuff like that. Yeah. Where'd you grow up? So, man, hit us. Where'd you grow up? What area? You know, what city? What location?
Yep. So I was born in Camden and grew up in Bradbury, just suburb of Campbelltown, for my first sort of 5 or 6 years. Then I moved out to, I think it was Mittagong for a year or two, and then I settled in the Blue Mountains. Whew. So I spent from sort of 8 till about 20 in the mountains, and I've been in Sydney ever since. So I've always been in New South Wales and kind of around Sydney area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been in, I mean, it's weird being at this age now and actually being like, oh, I've been in Sydney for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I mean, even coming out here today, I'm thinking, well, this area used to be the big smoke for me when I was in the mountains as a kid, you know? Like you'd come down to Penrith Plaza and, you know, we didn't have a whole lot, so my whole thing was getting like some Nike socks or some shit. So you come down to the plaza and go to the, you know,
100%.
That'd be the closest that we'd have to kind of like something big. In the mountains, it was real village style when I was growing up there. So,
you know, and look, I'm not going to lie, it has changed a lot in the mountains, but there's also still like a smaller community vibe out there. Like you go out, like, man, I've been out to like Lura. I'm a massive like Lura fan.
Yeah, right.
Fuck, I'd live in Lura for sure.
Yeah. It's got all those white picket fences and real, you know, beautiful green leafy streets.
Man, and shout out to Mighty Ash. I think he's still out there fucking repping. I think he's out he's all the way out there, man.
Yeah.
There's still a lot going on out there. So big shout outs to the Mount folk, you know, repping, holding it down, you know.
Mad love.
In terms of, this is always a really bit of a weird one as well for me, especially for the older guys. Guys have been around a little bit longer. You know, even myself a little bit, but in terms of like experience for hip hop, you know, because obviously we live in look, I'm not gonna lie, it's quite an Anglo society, bit rock and roll driven, you know, particularly back in the day.
Definitely.
So first experience, and when I say that, I just mean like the first time really sort of popped for you. What was your first experience of hip hop when you were younger?
Yeah, I can't really put a finger on it, but when I was around 10 or 11, I was writing poetry with a mate of mine. But when I say poetry, it was nursery rhymes, but just mutated into like kid raps. You know, so I would change all the lyrics. We would change all the lyrics to these nursery rhymes just with like kid humor, you know, just fart jokes or whatever else was that's
the best humor though.
As a kid, like that was funny to us, but I must have had an awareness of hip hop culture on some sort of a level, but that was late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, right.
So we didn't really have the same access that exists today. But there were shows like MCTV on SBS, which would run on a Sunday afternoon, and it would be an hour of hip hop video clips from acts like Run DMC, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, Paris even, NWA, Public Enemy, of course. Like there'd be a whole bunch of those clips that had come through that you'd never even really see on Rage because, yeah, you're right. Like it was so Anglo, and I mean, even going back then, like, yeah, there wasn't the same kind of access to this music. So you'd hold on to it wherever it came up.
100%. Yeah.
And so the way that you really embraced hip hop music was ordering it in at the local record store, which would be a process of like months because it'd come in on import.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. So
you back
really
some memories.
earned those that access to hip hop music. So whether it be Pete Rock or whether it be, a record like a Ghetto Boys record, like, it'd be time and effort that you'd be putting into getting that.
And it would be a bit of a, like, I don't want to say a fluke, but like it was a bit of a roll of the dice, right? Because you could potentially be fucking ordering garbage, right? Not that we knew necessarily, not that we were like much the wiser with regards to like differentiating what garbage and quality was, but you'd be rolling the dice. I remember similarly, so going into record stores and checking out the imports and just taking a punt, checking out the features, checking out production credits, trying to like pin the pieces together and go like, okay, cool. It's pretty fair to say this may be a good record.
Yeah.
Get it home. There's the single and then just fucking trash.
Yeah. So much filler on so many records. And you wouldn't know until after. And then because you'd spent so much time ordering that shit and you paid a lot of money because you didn't, like, where was the money coming from? Like, I didn't have money.
Yeah.
So then it became a matter of pride. You wouldn't give up on that record. You would not give up on that record. You would
100%.
listen to it, and if your friends didn't like it or they were pointing out that, that was ultimately not a great record, not a classic, you'd be defensive about it, and there was something good about that. Like you would not have a skippable, there's no such thing as a skippable record.
You had to know the whole thing. Get the lyrics. Write them down. Rewind that. Write it down again. Scratch it out. Maybe they said something else. Who knows? Then you start rapping gibberish along with it,
Memorize the liner notes, the whole thing. Like experience it all and then, incorporate it in. And then, share it with your friends. Like tape that. Everyone tapes a copy for themselves. No one else buys the same copy unless it is certified classic. Because you got to spend the money on the next hot record. Like if you've got the Def Squad crew, if you've got EPMD or Redman or Keith Murray, then that was your responsibility to get all those records. You kind of own that territory. But if you're Wu-Tang, then you get all the solo records. And I mean, eventually that era of my life moved on and but that was like fun. That shit was awesome,
bro. No doubt, man. It's actually like, I mean, you do go to show your age. Like, I'm the same. Like I turn around to some guys. There's actually big shout outs to DeAndre, who's a fucking massive, up and comer MC from Southwest. But I was talking to him the other day because he's got like real respect for that era, particularly like the Def Squad, the Wu-Tangs, the Method Mans, and I said to him, I was like, fuck man, I wish you were there in that, especially with the appreciation he shows for it. I was like, yo, I wish you were there for the era because just the dress, the style, the fucking, the copping things, it was a totally different game, man. I know it did say, because like, for this sort of stuff as well, bro, like I got no shame. I'm smashing bios and everything, you know what I mean? So I'm like having a dig. But it did say the older brother may have shown you Run DMC like Tougher Than Leather, or is that a thing? Or like,
I mean, it was just a classic big brother situation, We shared a room. And so he owned the stereo. I mean, I don't even know if he owned the stereo, but he owned the stereo. And what his tastes were was what we listened to. So he went. How much older is he than you? Only a couple of years older, but yeah, for sure. Like I got an appreciation for a lot of music courtesy of my brother. That includes, he went through whole phases, but hip hop was something that he opened me up to, and I followed it through. Same with skateboarding. Like, some of these things, it was his influence. It got me into it, but then I just kept on going with it. Whereas he was really like, he had a real eclectic taste in music. So he moved on to Leonard Cohen and Britpop and all these different types of genres of music, which it took me longer to get into those types of music, but I still appreciate them, and they were still really influential for me. So yeah, he definitely has a role. I mean, big brothers always have a role, big sisters.
It's interesting you say that, because that actually, I suppose, gives a little bit, because I find you quite both creatively and obviously, what you listen to and whatever, at least from what I see, it's quite eclectic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is there anything that gave you a bit more of an affinity with hip hop culturally that you identified with in the music, that you sort of go like, nah, man, this is really like something, like, even in retrospect, that you maybe subconsciously thought, made you gravitate towards it and stick with it?
Hip-hop culture always was the big eye-opener for me, especially at that time I was in the Blue Mountains, and, it's predominantly white. You're not really exposed to too many other cultures as you're growing up. Hip-hop really opened my eyes up to another way of seeing the world, which then made me look inward at what was going on here. And I mean, I was a kid. I think it really awakened something in me more than it did, like, it was a revelation for sure. I think, I'm listening to Paris talk about pro-black issues in music and talking about, white devils and different concepts that for me as a 13, 14-year-old were like,
Yeah.
I was like...
Well, you're not going to hear that from your local grocer or anything. Yeah.
It's the opposite that you're going to be hearing. So that sent me on a bit of a journey to kind of understand it. And I guess the first thing that you have is like, oh, why are they doing? What's going on there? I don't understand the history.
Why am I the white devil?
Why am I the white?
Yeah.
What happened before I got here?
Yeah, 100%.
And what has, as I've gotten older, become really clearly something that has continued on and continues on and will not be unraveled unless it's forcibly unraveled. So
straight up, it's going to be swept under the rug unless we're kicking the door down, sort of thing.
And yeah, PE, Chuck D, he was talking about a whole bunch of issues that made me kind of go, oh, what's happened in Australia? Like, because there were, there was no textbooks that talked about anything other than invasion as this really like heroic act and this great sort of, historical kind of intervention in this country. That was the entire platform that we were given as students.
And it was force-fed. Like,
and of course,
there's no other alternative.
Yeah, you're going to create a way of seeing the world that is skewed, and it's wrong and it's false. And why would you be so fearful of representing the truth that you brainwash children by teaching them the incorrect view of history? It's very insecure, but I didn't understand this stuff till I became an adult, But hip hop is the thing that opened that door, and I was also into graffiti. So
Well, that said as well, graffiti. I mean,
I was never that good at graffiti, but I got exposed to a lot of hip hop culture and a lot of characters that taught me about intelligence. Actually, a lot of graffiti artists taught me about intelligence that existed off the page. It existed off the school syllabus. It existed in the quick thinking, how do I get out of this situation that I've just got myself into? Now, that taught me a lot about where intelligence really lies and where we value certain kinds of intelligence and where we railroad others off into the justice system.
Man, fucking. I mean, that's an entire conversation unto itself. I can guarantee you. But what's also fascinating and fucking and really dope is to see that ultimately what unhinged that sort of train of thought was obviously hip hop and rap. Yeah. And speaking of intelligence, that intelligence represented in the music as a narrative rather than just you know, like a beat, or just like, you know, singing along for the sake of like, you know, having a dance. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so no, it's awesome. In terms of you then transitioning into, obviously, you know, you did the nursery rhyme sort of. You obviously had, I suppose, a bit of a natural knack for that creative process. Then obviously gaining influence from these people with, you know, provoking thought behind the music. Then, what then triggered you into really probably actively pursuing it, even if it obviously early on probably wasn't a career choice. Nobody turns around, especially at that stage, and goes, you know what, I'm going to be a fucking rapper.
Yeah, that's a dead end. You know,
Yeah.
it's got no future.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but yeah. So where did you go from then to be like, you know, start kicking a few rhymes? Was it like on the corner? Was it like just with a little group of homies? And like, you know, was it at school? Because I know even a lot of guests are like, I was pretty much the only rapper at school. You know, so how did that kick off?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when we were in school, we weren't aware of anyone else that was into hip hop, and I guess I had a close bunch of friends. Like there was two other friends, Ross and Shane. Those are the two
Shout out
friends
to Ross
of
and
mine.
Shane.
Shout out to Ross and Shane.
Yo.
They were my two closest friends. We were all into hip hop. We were all into graffiti. We were all into that, you know, that all aspects of the culture. And we would rap. We would write raps. We would try and perform them. We would just do them in the bedroom. We would smoke bongs at one of my friends'
Smoke bongs?
place and just like rap, you know. And then we got older and we would learn to freestyle, and then we go to a club and just freestyle there. Man, I still have apologies to make to whoever, like to people like Blaze and Dr. Vibes and these different DJs that would put on nights, and me and my friends, we would just go there and just rap. And we would be in the middle of the... I mean, who the fuck wants to have two
belligerent
scrawny
motherfuckers
white kids rapping in the middle of a dance? I mean, they had a dance, but we weren't rapping in people's ears. We were just entertaining ourselves. But also, we were recording. Like, we were finding software on computers. We were using external gear. It was like MPCs. We were just really... It was just raw, but it was... us just going, well, we weren't thinking, oh, let's turn this into something that we'll sell and turn into a career. We were just like, wow, we're doing this thing that we love.
Yeah. More like
that
a
our
hobby.
heroes
Like,
do.
we're not going to become I'm not going to become an NBA player, but like I fucking love to play basketball every week.
Yeah,
you know? I'm
exactly.
not going to become Chuck D, but I love fucking rapping.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I've just come up with a 16-bar verse. That's the maddest shit ever.
Yeah.
It was a means to an end. It wasn't a commercial thing. It didn't have a metric. We weren't going, let's fulfill a deadline. There was none of that.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, it was just that. I mean, I was also, I don't know, I feel like there's something that happened in my childhood. My old man left. It was, it was a bit rough for a little while there. I feel like I inherited a bit of I'm going to go and get this shit mentality, which is still with me to this day.
Yeah, fucking nice.
So I will put events on. We did one when we were in high school, which was just like DJs and the only band we knew, which was a Christian rock band. Paid them with a case of beer. But our parents...
that they donated.
Oh, Christians. So it's like...
Christians and alcohol.
They were going hard. But, I mean, it was incongruent. What the hell's a rock band doing at our hip-hop night?
Yeah.
But our parents were working the door and doing security. And so I know that that's part of my... Whatever is the wiring in my brain started me kind of like thinking about, well, let's just do something to kind of create a way of performing or something. We weren't performing. I was DJing. I'd never DJed in my life.
Yeah.
It was just to put something
involvement,
on.
right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And I think those things at that time where there was no industry for us, it just set me on there was a chain of events, and eventually I ended up hooking up very randomly with some other people who were also trying to make music without labels or whatnot, and they were making a compilation, and that's when I fell in with Elephant Tracks.
Yeah. So in terms of Elephant Tracks, and like, so your first, was it Realistics?
Realistics, that's Shane. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and so that whole, the early days then, like you becoming an artist and going into, you know, like that label thing, which was actually quite early for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, like I'm necessarily an established artist, and then like I'm gonna plug away for a couple of years, and then like I'm gonna, you know, get someone interested when I'm at more of a peak. You were like involved with the label.
Oh yeah.
Like early on.
There was no development.
No.
There was no
Well, that's
artist
what I mean.
development.
Which is bizarre. Like it's almost like sort of it's like you were developed with the label.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we didn't have any idea that there was an audience for us. So we weren't sitting there going, oh, we're going to wait till we're good. I mean, we thought we were good. I mean, looking back, it's amazing on a level how bad I was. But, I mean, thinking about my mindset back then, it's a completely different world now. So the idea of, it was sort of like, this is a novelty and I'm really pumped about it. We'll put our music on a CD. Whoa, that's crazy shit. What the hell? We were playing with a band. That band has turned into Hermitude. You know, they've continued on and doing their thing. But we played in a band and we were just rapping because there's no other rappers. I don't know. I mean, there are moments with that. And I'm really proud of some moments. But at the same time, I can also look back and go, yeah, there was no development. That was just like, we got a verse, put it down, release it.
I mean, in essence, probably that lack of fear of, I don't know, judgment, or like you said before, like it's a really good way of saying it, is like that lack of fear of having to, you know, have a metric to measure success, because it was never about that.
Yeah.
As probably the thing that gets you to probably a level quicker, because you're not stunting yourself on somebody's feedback or anything. You're just fucking like plugging. Someone goes, oh, well, fucking that shit. You're like, well, bro, I'm not doing it for you. I'm just literally doing it because I fucking want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak high enough about that mentality. I love artists that have that vision and foresight that they know they've got to develop. They know, and they're going to pace themselves. They're making smart decisions. We were not making smart decisions. However, retrospectively, it's the only reason I'm here now, I reckon, and that I've spent 20 years doing this, is that what that does is that it doesn't put red lights in front of yourself. You don't second guess yourself. You don't think, I'm going to overthink this. I'm going to put all these different imaginary scenarios in front of myself, and one of them might play out. Therefore, I'm not going to start. Yeah. I'm a big believer in just start, do it, whatever. Like, you'll learn on the way. And I mean, that suits me. That suits the type of artist that I was, because it was 3, steps down the line that things started to actually make sense and click.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have got to that stage if I had second-guessed my way up to that point. And really, that's why I love a lot of young artists now. They haven't been around for so long that they have that self-defeating mentality that starts to creep up on you, where you stop having a very natural and honest relationship with your music, and you start to sort of invite all these possibilities into what you can and can't do or whatever, and actually like that starts to muddy the waters, because I mean who you are as an artist and what you can do is always best at its very core. Not interfered with.
Man, gems. Write that down. Fuck.
I mean,
I'm in total agreement, bro.
Yeah. I mean, each to their own. Like, some artists that's not going to work for, and I have so much respect for some artists who have that foresight that they can make those smart decisions. But for a lot of people, actually, what you're doing is you're creating a culture around yourself that is only ever going to be so far away from a kind of a perfectionist mindset, which can be great for some artists, but it can be the downfall of a lot of others.
For a majority part, man, I see a lot of people that are perfectionists, and they just shelve so much shit. And what I find fucking like confusing as is that like, you see these guys and you hear their product and they go, yeah, but it's not ready yet. And you're sitting there listening to it and you go, bro, it's fucking so good. Just put it out, right? Oh, but. And then by the time they never released it, they shelved it. It sits there and then it's past the use by date for themselves, right? So then they're like, well, I can't release it now because now I'm onto this. And you're like, bro, you just robbed so many people of hearing something that could have been the fucking game changer for them because you were uncertain. And look, at the end of the day, right, it's the artist's decision. You can't fucking break someone's arm and force them to put it out. But simultaneously, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, like just jumping past that fear and putting that green light and no red lights can fucking certainly pay dividends.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like it gets harder as you go on because you do actually see, especially if you have a little bit of success, even a moderate level, you start to kind of like put one and one together and you go, I'm going to do that smarter this time and that time. But actually, what is the inevitable outcome is that there's all these expectations on what you're trying to do. So then you've got things out of order. You've got the outcome in front of the process. Yes. So the outcome starts to kind of dictate how you see things. But actually, when you're creating and you're trying to come up with the best thing that you can possibly come up with, what you need is no expectations, no cluttered kind of thought process. What you need is just to have an honest, free-flowing way of creating shit. And that in its purest form is, obviously you got to develop your craft. Like the craft is like, that's work. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of, that inevitable role that expectations plays in every single artist, no matter who you are, is the Achilles heel of so many of us. And we all go through it at different points. At different
stages, yeah, without doubt, man.
So you don't want to invite that shit into your front yard until it's just there.
No. Yeah, until you fucking open the front door and you close it and you turn around and you're like, oh, fuck, what the fuck are you doing in my house?
I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah, one of those ones.
Yeah.
In terms of then, like, because, obviously you've jumped in then and you've established yourself as, well, a label, I don't know, like a label guy, and so then you start injecting yourself and you said, Blaze, Dr. Vibes, like, who were some, like, I suppose, like, strong associates early on, even if you were just maybe a rat bag rapping in the middle of a dance floor? Who were some guys that really, I don't know, sort of championed you or maybe just were always just like, fuck yeah, man, you can always come along, you can always jump up and encourage that?
Yeah, from our crew, there were people like Kenny Sabir, who's the founder of Elephant Tracks. Yep. Wasn't really a hip-hop guy so much, but, he's always been a mentor and he's always... he's definitely refined some of the rougher edges that I've had when I've tried to navigate how to, make decisions or make good decisions.
Yep.
I was definitely a little bit more hot-headed when I was starting out, and he taught me a bunch of stuff, so it became very pivotal for me. There was it's funny, it's only one moment. This person had a role in my career in different ways, but there was one moment that I had in some club in Sydney where Kuro, who was a rapper from Adelaide, he was part of the Fugleman back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Who were associated with Death Wish Cast and also a whole bunch of different crews in those early days. He took me aside one time. He's like, "You've got it. You should keep on doing this." And I mean, I look back on what I was doing there. I'm like, what was he thinking? But funnily enough, that was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah,
just this one sign, this one expression of endorsement.
Yep.
Even just quietly to me, I never forgot it.
Fuck, that's mad.
It's a simple thing, and I think this is the other thing about what I always try and remember now is, and I mean, you do it well sometimes, you don't do it well other times, but you remember that those moments are actually important to people, and not to withhold that encouragement
and appreciation. Yeah, bro.
And appreciation. That's right. It's not just encouragement. It's like, hey, you're cool. You're doing good. I see it. It's clear. You got skills and you've got potential here. And I mean, I wish I could do more of that. I reckon doing a lot of work ends up taking away the energy that you can give in a more, not charitable, but more empathetic kind of way.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It is. I think that sometimes as well, it's like, because when you're mindful of doing, because you really do in those moments of appreciation. Appreciation is literally stepping back, not doing anything, and purely looking and saying, "That's fucking dope."
Yeah.
But there is a moment of not doing anything to be able to do that, and that's an energy unto itself.
It's really true. Yeah.
So fuck, I can totally appreciate that. So, fuck, man, it's dope to hear, and it's hectic as well. Probably a little bit of a gem for other MCs as well, because the thing is as well, back in the day, and even still to this day, I suppose, MCs showing other MCs appreciation is not often a thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's important that we're like encouraging it, I suppose, from other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We come from a culture of hyper competitiveness, and there's a healthy competitiveness there, I mean, I was thinking about that, like this positivity around encouraging an artist and how important it is, but actually getting in the booth and being terrified of other artists and that being a source of adrenaline or something that spurs you on, that's also can be good.
Encourage your best. It's like sitting in a room. It's actually better to be sitting in a room of dope MCs because you're going to write your best shit.
Yeah. I mean, I remember so many lounge room ciphers with people like Sleeping Monk and Loco One and Realistics. There were so many different rappers. A lot of them never even released anything, but. Yeah, I mean, that was, it was just, we were kind of socializing. It was beers, it was bongs, it was just hanging out. But actually what we were really doing is we were kind of flirting with the idea of doing this shit seriously. Yeah. And people like Sleepy Monk were already doing it seriously. They were already doing stuff and they were paving the way. But being part of those rooms, that was, I mean, I remember being terrified. Like even just sitting there rapping, like, nervous as hell, but
hoping something would hit.
Yeah. And they're good testing grounds. They also sort of teach you a little bit about yourself and
shape character.
Yeah. So they were just and they were just ciphers. There was no end to it. People recorded them on DAT tapes or on mini discs. Mini discs. And then I don't know who the fuck listened to it. Maybe we did.
Whoever's fucking mini disc it was.
Not many people were trying to listen to a blazed cipher with a bunch of fellas in like a St. Peter's, lounge room.
It's probably worth it now. I reckon people would be fucking stinging to hear that shit right now.
Yeah, that's a pity that there isn't that many mini disc players. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you got to go. Yeah, 100%. What about like in terms of some wins then that like early on? Like I know it was a different, it was a different vibe. I remember back. I mean, for me, it was sort of like more like a late 90s, it's mid 90s, sort of late 90s is when I sort of started to get, active, but wins were hard to gauge because, they weren't really, we're looking at like, if we were to say musical peers or people in bands, you'd be really getting some like, big gig or you're getting in in a fucking really good studio, and those opportunities for us as MCs and hip hop creatives, it wasn't the same. But are there any sort of, I suppose, like wins or things that started to like happen that sort of made you start to think like, hold up, like we're getting some fucking pretty dope opportunities now that are standing out?
Bro, we had wins. Like
shit. Well, okay.
We had wins.
Let me tell you a little bit something about the wins. Shit.
But I mean, one of the first launches that we did was in an internet cafe, like on Enmore Road. So I don't know how you could say that you sell that out, but there were a lot of people in there and they weren't searching on AOL or whatever Netscape or whatever. Like that was not happening. That was a win.
Navigator?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was us bringing our towers in, like the computer tower, and plugging it into a monitor and then playing the beats out of it and rapping. That was a win. I mean, that was
Big wins.
I mean, this is like
Can we take it back?
that'd be like
Do we
people
ne-
walking past and making sound complaints and calling the cops. That would be what happens now. But that was a win for us then. And yeah, that kind of grew into little moments like other gigs that, there was a night called Frigid, and Frigid was an electronic crew, but they basically put on a Sunday night every week. It cost $3 to get in.
Good
and
price.
They curated different artists or DJs every week. And they weren't hip-hop at all, but every now and again there would be hip-hop crews that would do takeovers, and Elephant Tracks did takeovers, and I did some takeovers myself where I just promoted shows, and we had Trey, we had even Bliss and Esso when they were Bliss and Esotericism.
Yeah, Bliss and Esotericism.
We had
yep.
Mass MC. We had all these different artists. I mean, I brought Reason up from Melbourne. We had Pegs. All these different artists
What
that
the fuck?
became part of these shows that we were putting on. And people were turning up. And that was $3 a head. And at the venue was the Newtown Globe, one of them. The other one was a Hope Town. There's different pubs in the city that we were running these shows at. And I mean, we weren't really making any money, I guess, but that was amazing. So they were wins. I mean, more like then those things started to turn into, the real uncomfortable transition into becoming part of the industry, And the industry we're part of the industry just by virtue of putting music out.
Yeah,
It's not really this.
It wasn't like necessarily like a fucking association.
Yeah.
It was just like default music.
That's right.
Must
That's why
be industry.
That's why Elephant Tracks was started, because there was no label for us.
Yeah.
We put these gigs on, and probably one of the key little moments was when we turned from being a bunch of a different random multi-genre artists to going, let's collaborate and let's work on a record. And that's when The Herd was born. And Aussie battler Byron,
Shout out to Aussie Battler.
and Kenny, I think it was, wrote a song called Scallops. And Scallops was a real novelty song, but it captured a bit of that coastal Aussie kind of like vibe. And Triple J picked it up.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we kind of turned from being like a very Sydney-based, but we also were activists. So we went down to Melbourne for the S11 protest in 2000, a year before the towers came down. It was called S11, and it was protesting WTO and the unfair monetary policies that were affecting a lot of third world nations. And so we were kind of like involved in that shit. And
Well, I was actually going to say, because I had that as later, but is that how then, because you obviously really connected, sorry, bro, and there's also, like, just in case, because this is the flaming hot shit,
Yeah.
I also got the tasty cheese CCs.
All right.
So if you need to, like, bust that out, let me know.
We'll work our way.
Yeah. But is that how you got then, like, around a little bit more and involved in other cities? Because back then as well, like, you had to physically go to other cities, scope out what was fucking popping there, and yo, I'm from here, this, that, you know what I mean? Like, have a chat, connect in that regard. You know what I mean? Like, is that how you then built the connects and stuff?
Yeah. Yep. We had our own connections. I mean, you get in a van and go up to Brizzy, or you go to Melbourne. It's a bit hard to get in a van and go to Perth. So that wasn't until later on. But I mean, that's what happened. Like, no one had anywhere to go. So you do a gig, and then we'd go back to, someone's house, and you'd write till the early hours. And the thing about those collaborations, sometimes you just got an energy, and you're just connecting with other artists. The novelty of it, it's mad. You're feeding off each other. And actually what you're doing also, you're building up relationships. And, some of those relationships might not go anywhere, but others, I mean, one of them I'm still working with today. Yeah, right. So you can never underestimate when you do those shows and when you get out of your own area, connecting with other people, other like-minded people. You never know. You it's not just music, but music is the common thread. And, I really value a lot of those relationships. And it's something that just generally networking or meeting other people or collaborating with other people, it's always potentially a bit weird to begin with.
Yeah.
But you do one session, you sort of get a bit of a vibe. You do a second session, suddenly you're like having a feed down at the, you're just grabbing a feed together, whatever.
Yep.
Next time, actually, you're connecting online or something. I mean, not that it was happening back then, but that's how a relationship sort of builds. And all of a sudden, you got fam. There's a little bit of trust there. There's crew. There's allies. There's people that kind of walk the same paths together. So that's the way I see a lot of relationships now. Is like, okay, it's a bit weird to begin with, but you do that. You make that step. You go out of your way. You meet them. You build, and that's how it grows. It's not something that you contrive and you manufacture and you.
Then it's organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not bullshit, and then it just helps, perpetuate the process.
Yeah.
Fucking 100%. So, obviously, Herd gets picked up Triple J, which, what year is this?
2001.
01.
Yeah.
And that's sort of early. I don't want to say early Triple J, but Triple J was traditionally quite a rock,
Oh yeah.
and it was really band orientated, right? So then, to be, the Herd obviously, then would be sort of like a band, like or easier for them to digest a group, you know. How was that, and like gaining that traction and that notoriety, and how did that feel for you guys?
Well, I wasn't on that song, so I vicariously just like, yeah, that's my band,
Yeah, 100%.
We're on the radio. But everyone in the band had never experienced anything like this before.
Yeah.
So we thought we were famous. We were like, holy shit, we've made it.
We're famous.
The fucking radio.
See those guys? Yeah, it's my band.
We're killing it. I missed this whole thing, but there's a famous story that the guys in the Herd talk about where they did the hottest 100 that year, right? The next year, right? So the Scallops came out.
Yeah.
And they're at the countdown, and it's like 100 to 50. Like, holy shit, we're in the top 50, 50 to 40. Fuck, we're getting higher. 40, 30. Holy shit, this is crazy. 30, 20. This is
bullshit.
Right down to one. Have we got the number one song? And then it wasn't us, so it didn't. No, but all the guys are sitting there hanging out together, just thinking that this is the shit. Like, we've made it. This is it. And they didn't have any idea about how these things worked, and there's no industry backing. There's nothing beyond a little vibe and a community that we built around, independent music and kind of not giving a fuck about that mainstream kind of current that a lot of more what kind of seems like official music came through. So,
and I suppose because you're sitting there, right, part of Elephant Tracks, like this is like it's got the fucking Elephant Tracks like logo on it. You'd be like, fuck yeah, Elephant Tracks represent. It was that like sort of solidifying a little bit, like, yeah, cool, we're on a bit of a right track of, because I could only imagine, right, like the back end of Elephant Tracks was like a couple of sheets of paper in the corner of someone's head. I don't know, like how established was it, at that stage,
lounge room, buying CDs, like actual plastic jewel cases or whatever, and then we'd fill them all ourselves, printing up the covers, cutting them out, putting them into the CD, physically taking that CD to the record store, getting a little invoice notepad and selling those CDs on consignment. It was all it was cottage industry back then, but it was all low key. And but what things like the Herd selling a few records did was we did an official press of the CD. That money went back into Elephant Tracks. No one took a cent. We weren't paying each other royalties. It was going to the next artist. And the next artists were people like Hermitude. There was we licensed a record from an artist who'd spent a bit of time in Australia, but she'd formed a duo called Apsai. They were New York based. Then, and so on it went. So we started putting more records out, made more money, investing in new artists, and off we went.
Fuck yeah, man. Inspiration as well then, for you to, continue. It shows a lot of discipline as well for you guys to put straight back into the craft.
Yeah, I mean, the mindset then wasn't being big. I mean, we wanted it to grow. We wanted it to turn into an official thing. No one was, we were naive, but we had like a determination about us. Like it was like we don't want to go down the label route. We don't want to be official. We don't want to know shit. Like fuck that. We want to do it independent. That was the mindset. And so, in order to do that, we weren't funded by anyone. We still aren't. We're still not a subsidiary of anyone. We don't have any capital that's given to us from anyone. It's literally the income that we get from selling CDs or, well, I see, showing my age. I mean, we're talking about 2000s here, but like,
I'll still sell a fucking CD. Fuck it. Fuck is all. I'll still sell a CD. Buy my CD. Print it myself in my lounge room.
yeah. But you know, like that mindset was one of like, we're going to go and do this, you know. It wasn't, you know, sometimes I play it down, but actually there was a fierceness there. There was like we like the politics of the music and how we felt about the world. We were like, fuck it, let's go out and do something. So we go to Melbourne and protest and get involved. Like we still have that mindset. And that, you know, that meant that we attracted certain artists that came to us and, but yeah, that was a really prevailing mentality that kept us driven.
Yeah, 100%. But, you know, it goes to show because, I mean, just even the fact that Elephant Tracks is, you know, still standing and, like, I mean, that's testament to, I suppose, the team sort of mindset to the label and, you know, what backed it in the first place, you know?
Yeah, and luck. You know, I mean, this is I mean, it's really relevant to people who are watching now and who are trying to come up now, as much as it is for veterans and people who have just been around for a little while, is that we all know that there is a lot of great talent that never really sees the
light of day.
Yeah, they don't get the recognition that really fits the potential and the talent. And that's not just because people self-sabotage or people don't follow through. Sometimes they do, and it can be a cruel you know, career path. And being an artist full stop is fairly cruel, and you have to sort of accept sacrifices and circumstances that a lot of other industries would not tolerate. But it is a truth that was the same back in the 60s as it is in 2021, that you have to have a bit of luck with this. Like, you know, you have to have a song that connects. And sometimes we think that we're in control of that, but actually, you know, there's so many other contributing factors to why that might resonate at that given time, whether it be like political climate, whether it be like social climate, you know, the climate, like you name it. Yeah. Was a contributing factor. Yeah. Stepping out of that then, and then like, you know, and really sort of establishing yourself solo and stepping up to the plate, you know, and being Urthboy. Yeah. You know, how did that kick off? And how, you know, I think I still got your first. What was your first CD? Distant Sense of Random Menace.
Was that the one with the
little character?
The character cartoon. Yeah. Yep. Still got that at home. The OG. I bought that shit, but mainly because I fucking love the artwork as well. No Rider. Yep. That was on that, right? Yep. That was my jam. Yeah, could relate. Yeah, talk about that, man. That transition, and you know, you're coming off the tail end, I suppose, of like you know, or the homies like getting the props, and you know, now you're famous. Elephant Tracks represent. You know, these chicks don't even know the name of my band. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we had a few reality checks over the years after that Hottest 100 moment. I mean, it's just hilarious thinking about it, but. I mean, that's confidence. You know, that coming from a place of not really thinking that. I mean, I've always had a bit of a fraud mentality. Like, I not come from a musical background, so I always feel like an outsider. Still, I understand who I am as an artist now, and I feel like the closer you get to having a true understanding of who you are, the more enjoyable it is anyway, because you don't fully hitch your wagon to delusional mindset, you know, and that's just that damages you after a while, because you need to
you need to continuously meet those high levels that you set for yourself. But anyway, like the confidence that comes from actually starting to become a bit more adept at putting a song together and, you know, backing your own melodic ideas. And yeah, that confidence really sort of set me up to start writing songs and being a bit more forceful or something. Not forceful. Forceful is probably the wrong word, but actually...
Assertive?
Yeah, assertive. I mean, it's just confidence. Confidence is a beautiful thing with music. Obviously, it has a relationship with ego and whatever, and that's a journey that humans take their whole lives. So where you sit on that is up to wherever your head is at. But
me and Ems have conversation on ego all the time.
yeah. I mean, but that confidence where it's in that sweet spot.
Yeah,
that's a really nice part of my come up was when the confidence came, when I started to kind of get a bit of a sense of what I was doing.
Yep, and a sense of self sort of thing in terms of creative identity.
Yeah, like, I can actually do it. Like, I think I can do it.
I think I can do it.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean...
And then I'll just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, 100%. This is a bit of a funny one. Transition, right? Like, because this is the thing for me. Obviously the whole Fig Kid thing, signed to Sony, and I was right on the fucking cusp of like, people bought things, physical things, right? And then digital, right? Which absolutely like fucked a lot of people, you know? So I suppose I sort of ask you with regards to that transition, because, you know, for me, I didn't really feel the transition. I just got fucking slapped with it. It was like, you know, I had a good track run. It was coming out, and then bang, it's just like, cool. Now we got to sell records, and Napster and LimeWire, and people are fucking downloading things like instantaneously. They don't actually need your physical copy. So I didn't really feel a transition, but you obviously been a little earlier, and it'd be interesting to hear from a independent standpoint. Did you guys feel that digital pinch, and were you able to adapt to it? Is there anything that you did specifically?
I never really fought against it. I was worried about it, but we weren't selling so many records, and we didn't have so much staff that it was an overhead issue. You know, like, we might have to... Like, this is going to... Oh, no, the shareholders are not going to be happy about this.
Chop Aussie Battler. Can't keep up with the salary.
You know, I mean, I think for a few years there, I was working at the management role at Elephant Tracks when Kenny went overseas, and I wasn't paid for 2 or 3 years. And then when I started getting paid, it was like equivalent of, you know, maybe $300 a week for a full-time job.
Yeah.
But it wasn't full-time work. But I kind of committed to it, the whole thing.
Yep.
So it wasn't like we had overheads where that transition to digital really bit us. So I was never really sort of thinking from a shareholder's point of view, if you know, if that makes sense. Like I was, and I mean, it's true. That's what these big companies were worried about.
Yeah.
They have market share. They have a lot of money. They have CEOs on big salaries. That's what they're concerned about. Yes, there is a worry about the artists, but no, that structure does not give a fuck about the artists.
No,
ultimately,
100%.
I mean, really, there is exceptions to the rule, and most of the people that do develop and, you know, have careers in music, they love music. They're passionate about music. But really, when it comes down to the concern about copyright and pirating and whatever, I mean, that was just like a corporate issue. For us, it didn't really touch us. We lost probably a lot of sales, but we didn't know and we didn't care.
Nah. It's probably a bit easier for you to organically build just like another client or another purchaser of a CD.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, 100%. If anything, you're probably like, no, like rip it, fucking get it out to more people so they feel like they owe us more by like buying a CD, you know? Yeah, fucking oath. In terms of, and this is an interesting one as well because, you know, especially for, you know, I can only more so relate this day and age for myself with regards to doing wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
For a long time, I've only ever really had to wear the artist hat.
Yeah.
You know, even independently, you know, organising a couple of things, there was never really a title or role or anything like that to it. So one thing that interests me with regards to yourself being so ingrained in a label so early, and then coming to, you know, knowing who you were creatively, how was it balancing being a creative and being responsible for, you know, other people's releases and being involved with the label and managing, because, you know, you spoke about ego before, which is a funny thing as an artist, right? Because you partly require your ego to function, but then to manage somebody else, you actually require to almost take your ego off, put it down, and wear a different hat. So how did you find that balance, bro? Like, that's, you know, and what challenges maybe did you come across with that, and what wins do you think you might have come across personally?
These are good. Are we promoting it?
Bro,
Is this like a...
Listen, this is how obsessed I am with Doritos and hot chips. There was one time they used
This
to
is
do
my dinner, you know.
Bro, I've got a whole other bag there. You can take
I'll
them.
eat all of them.
Yeah, you go. Bro, you go for that. That's your bag now.
Barbecue
All right?
shapes, you got it.
No.
That's a regular.
You should have told me. I put in the email dietary requirements. So I would have got them. But this is how obsessed I am, just before you answer that question. So they did Doritos Burn one time. It was a black packet, had flames on it. It was really enticing, much like this. But, you know, black just seems a little bit more edgy. Yeah. So, like, it was like just sitting there. Fuck, I used to be so obsessed with them. Then they cancelled them. And then I was actually one of those guys that went in the competition on Facebook with, like, give us 30 words why you should be the winner of the prize. And I won the prize. And I won a fucking box of these chips. That's one of my big wins in life.
That's a big win.
That's a fucking big win.
You were cheering that day.
Mate, it was hot cheering. Like, Doritos personally sending me chips. I felt like a fucking superstar, you know? Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
What was the question again?
We do.
No, I remember.
All right, something about chips.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I think that sometimes you can have those enlightened realizations that your ego is just as dangerous as it is a source of motivation.
Yep.
And having a big ego is great because it propels you forward. You know, it's like, I got to do this. This is my gift. I am the one. I'm the man. And that can be healthy. But also the ego is what sort of chains you to a kind of like a set of outcomes that if don't happen, what do you do then? You know, and how to manage that is like the downfall of countless artists and countless people in all sorts of different careers. But as far as talking about having an ego on the artist side and then having to move into a more of a guidance role, like whether it be manager or whether it be running a label, I've had to learn the hard way, and I've made mistakes. And sometimes I haven't learned those mistakes till years later. You know, you deal with something, you don't necessarily deal with it well, you fall out with someone, you take that grudge, you carry it with you, and then slowly life reveals itself to you. And it says to you, you know, there's a couple of things you could rethink about the way that you handled that, right? And I definitely have those. Yeah. And they've been good because now I'm getting older, maybe I'm chilling out a bit, but I'm always seeking out those learning moments now. And I'm really embracing them. I'm walking into them, and they're uncomfortable sometimes. And sometimes you get called out. And the natural response of almost everyone I know is to be real defensive. Yeah, man. Actually, I'm trying to learn a different way of just shutting the fuck up for a bit, especially as a white male navigating my way around black culture. I've really learned I have to shut the fuck up a lot more, and also around women. Yeah. These are experiences that I don't know anything about, and I don't have any lived experience in about them, of the complexity of them. So I'm trying to learn, you know, and I'm really not trying to bring my experience in as this sort of license to do what the fuck I want. I am trying to, no matter who it is speaking, whether it be a 15-year-old or a 60-year-old, I'm trying to engage with that person in a respectful way so that I can actually better myself, because it's not really about that person or whatever. I might never see that person again, but I want to take a better version of myself into the next interaction, you know?
Fuck oath.
And that's a process. But as far as like learning how to balance those different roles, yeah, I mean, artists want to run a label so that they can be a curator and they can be the CEO. I mean, people call themselves CEOs. CEOs only if you're, you know, a particular type of company. Otherwise, you're a managing director or you're another thing. But CEO is this Jay-Z idea, this Suge Knight idea, you know, these kind of big men that kind of run shit. Actually, my experience when you are responsible for people's careers is exactly as you say. You've got to bring a humility to it. Because if you are imposing your ideas on that artist, why the fuck sign them?
Straight up.
They're the artist, they're the talent, they're the unique idea. They're the ones you're backing. You're not trying to impose yourself on them. And I know that like it's more complex than just narrowing it down to that one single experience. But in my experience, that humility becomes, you know, the key to actually, you know, I don't know. It just becomes part of the job.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, because your artist is giving you something that is the most precious thing in their world, and it's something that they hold, you know, and they protect and they hold close, and they're handing that over to share with you, and they're giving the responsibility of managing that. And you're not perfect, but that's a big fucking deal. And if you're sitting there as a CEO going, I'm the king here. You know, I know exactly what's going on. Respect me. You're not set out for this.
Nah.
You're doing the wrong job. You should continue being an artist and do whatever it is that serves that ego, whatever. And you may be king shit, and that's cool. But
yeah, good on you. Yeah.
From doing that, and I don't want to be one of these old, you know, Dennis Handlins of the industry. You know, these old men that kind of like have all this power over all these different people.
Yep.
He doesn't get to that point without having a long history in the music industry. I've never worked with him, but I don't want to be that person. So I look at artists when they set up a label and they're like, oh, I've got my label, you know, I'm going to sign all these artists. And I think like, I don't think, oh, yeah, whatever, fuck you, you're full of shit. I really don't.
No, I'm sure, yeah.
I think for a while there,
you'd probably go from an experience and you'd be like,
good luck.
Yeah, like, I hope you have fully considered what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Like you have, whether it's successful or not, your own lane as an artist. But now that you're working with other artists, you actually got to kind of fold yourself into their needs. That's big growth. And I've definitely had a whole bunch of soul searching periods in my life where I've had to learn that the hard way. You know, I haven't come in with this kind of, you know, philosophical attitude where I can just sort of absorb these changes and adjust to the environment around me. Actually, you bush bash your way through, and eventually you have to change with it. Yep. And I mean, you know, it's something I've really learned to appreciate, and why my art and my music now takes a back seat. Firstly, because we've got a lot of staff at Elephant Tracks, and I've got to try and do the right thing in working there in the position that I have. But also, I really, and I have to always check myself too, because it's not like you learn and then that's it, you've done it. I have to continuously check myself to remember that artists actually are giving you such a, I mean, it's precious. It is everything to them, and if you don't treat that as seriously as them, then I mean, I say that because I understand it, but I also know that I've had moments where with artists we've come to head. You know, we've not agreed on things. Yeah, we have fallen out over different things. Not many, thankfully, and they're lessons. All of those moments. Yeah, but you know that's the way that we approach it, is that whether we are working with an artist who's got low streams and is developing, them and their outlook and their mental health and everything about their careers, their lives is really important. They're trusting us with it. Let's take care of it, you know. And it sits outside the braggadocio, like toxic testosterone shit that often defines the way we relate to each other. This is a real kind of empathetic human experience, and people's art needs to be given way more respect than just treated in a narrow frame of its commercial value.
Viability, yeah, fucking oath, man, 100%, man, and that's it's so dope for, you know, and I think that's probably testament as well. Like, again, you know, you guys never had your eyes on being fucking Sony or being like up there. If anything, it was probably anti all of that. But, you know, look at the longevity of it, you know, and I think that having those core values and respect for the reason why other people are doing it is definitely, that's, you know, kept you guys standing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when it was all independent versus majors and whatever, and I definitely have an anti-corporate perspective because, I mean, corporates don't give a fuck. Like, corporates...
No, they really do not.
Across our society, corporates are all driven to exploit humanity. That's really, like, at its essence, exploitation of humanity. Drive wages down, drive profits up. This is an anti-human experience.
Yeah.
So I'm happily anti-corporate.
Yeah.
But I'm still a participant in capitalism and that culture. So I'm conflicted and I'm a hypocrite. But I remember the independent versus major label wars, and I was an active participant in it, you know, like, it's way of kind of like defining who you are sometimes by defining what you're not.
Yes.
And that's it's a bit short-sighted, but hey, fuck it, who cares? You're here to sort of like stamp your ground and show people who you are. So I was, you know, part of that. But actually, as you grow older, you realize, like, actually, no, artists are it's artists. It's not independent or majors or whatever. It's artists.
That's artists first, yeah. Holding integrity to that. Fucking oath, man. No, it's good, man. It's refreshing. It's good to hear it as well from, I suppose, someone that's, you know, so established as well. That, and again, it's just reinforcing the reason why, you know, guys are trusting you as well. I wanted to talk about as well the activism, you know, like, for yourself. You know, you're obviously socially conscious. You use, you know, your voice and, you know, for a sort of higher platform, but it's interesting to hear that it was actually so early on in your career, you know. What inspires, like, what's the inspiration for you to use your voice? Is it something when you were young? Like, what inspires you to use your voice for a higher purpose, you know, artistically and creatively?
I don't know. I don't really think. I mean,
I know it's a bit
try
of
and
a funny
listen.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. I try and listen. I think that there's an arrogance with a lot of activism, and there's an arrogance, especially with performative activism. And I mean, there's no doubt if you look through anyone's track record, there's going to be some blurry areas, you know. And I definitely would have done performative activism throughout my life.
Yeah.
And so it's about trying to, like, work out, well, if you can piss off that ego side of that process, then it's fine. You can actually have a more of a impactful role. So it's not really about, like, I think there's always something in me that gravitates to trying to address some of this shit. And yeah, when I was younger, it was just this arrogance of, like, oh, I can change things or whatever. My voice is this or whatever. Actually, as I've gotten older, I just listen to people. They're like, use your influence, use your platform, and actually support things and work out the best way to support them. And that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
1 year, the version of activism is this thing. But actually, the next year, it's changed. Like, no, you can't do that anymore because that's like
things have changed.
That's insincere, or that's kind of like white savior complex or something. Yeah. Or that's talking
the narrative
over someone.
Sort of changes.
You're not talking for me.
Yeah.
You just hand the mic over. I'll talk for myself. Like, those sorts of things, I've just had to kind of listen to people. And now when I use my social media, I don't know if I do it. I just do it as it comes naturally.
Yeah.
But I definitely listen to people, and people who sit there and tell their story, and I listen to those stories and go, you know, we're complex. Humans are complex. So, we all have an imbalance of power in our lives, and I know that I've got a following, and some people who listen, most people who won't. So if I'm speaking, I want to be able to kind of support the things I care about.
Yep.
So it's good. Like, it's the same thing with that wanting to learn and be a better version of yourself. Is that sometimes like you get called out and people doubt you. And you go, how do you doubt me? Like, I've got a track record. Look,
I've got the right intention.
Yeah, I've got the right
I
intention.
say my intention is right.
And then slowly you fucking, take the blindfold off.
Yep.
And you realize like that there is decades and centuries of
Before you.
destruction and genocide and distrust. And that distrust manifests in every single issue that you come up against. So whether it be patriarchy, whether it be racism, whether it be like anti-transgenderism, like all of these things that are starting to become more discussed, and therefore the division and the debates and the arguing online gets louder.
Yep.
And people go, oh, fuck, why is it gone like this? Actually, no, what it is like we're dealing with centuries of shit.
Yeah.
And now everyone's talking because we've got an internet culture where those discussions are being had, and you either listen to people's stories and take them on board and listen, not just sort of wait for your moment so that you can talk over them. And that's the sort of role I've started to understand is mine. Is like, is to kind of get a sense of why someone, if I say something and they're like, call me out, fuck that guy, I don't believe him. I can't just go back at that person and be like, well, fuck you too. I have to sit there and go, oh, right, okay, so no matter what I say, you already have experienced life as being exploited and being on the receiving end, or maybe the whole family structure that you're within, or the school structure, your friendship circles, all of your homies, you're experiencing incarceration. Like, that's just normal. That's not what's normal to me. So who the fuck am I to come in and start talking about this shit? And that's something I'm just getting it a little bit more now, and I'm trying to act on it.
Yeah, man.
Not trying to be like, oh, I'm fucking an activist or anything like that. None of that. Just like, just trying to listen more.
Listen more. It's dope though that you still like inject yourself. I think, obviously, sounding now like when more appropriate, and listening more so when more appropriate too, man.
Yeah,
Fuck, certainly relate. Man, big wins for you. Like at least nominations. Like, oh fuck, I actually read it, and I'm a bit oblivious sometimes to awards, because I don't find, particularly for hip hop,
fuck awards.
Yeah. Like I don't find them, necessarily as a measure. Like for even for me, like you as a peer, like I'll look at you and I'd be like, getting on the right stages, doing a good amount of tours, getting, consistent, verses out and being present. That's for us, probably more the measure for us, you know what I mean? Like just the consistency and the being present, But then I fucking looked at it. I was like, you won a fucking Air Award I got in 2010. You're nominated for ARIAs in 2010, 2013, 16. Australian Music Prize 2007, 2009, 2012. J Award 2007. And like, you've had 5 solo albums, and then I actually look at those years anti-label to be able to still, I suppose, be considered in those, because look, as much as we'd like to say like fuck the labels, but then some of those awards still have panels of people that we would respect to be able to nominate you for. So how does it feel, I suppose, as someone that is not as ego driven as people that are probably working purely for themselves as an artist. Nothing wrong with that. But to be able to also still get a bit of a nod to say, hey man, like, you know, we still recognise you as a solo, you know, act and have for, you know, the span of a bunch of years, you know.
Yeah, I definitely got caught up in that for a while there, just because it's so validating, you know, and especially as an outsider, if you win, it can mean a lot. And I see people talking. I've seen Hal talk about, you know, awards and what they mean, and I really feel it when he talks about it.
Yeah,
because it's true. It's such a game changer for a lot of artists. It really sort of says something to them. And then if you think about it, not so much in like a big label sense and a big promoted artist, but actually it's a human there, and they've got brothers and sisters and mums and dads, and everyone gets a, you know, it's a big moment in a human's life. Those things can be beautiful, but actually for me, I guess I'm torn. I'm not immune from that egotistical rush that comes with being acknowledged.
Yeah.
You know, but I really feel like we as a culture could do better at acknowledgement. It's not really about
Urban Music Awards.
It's not really about winning shit.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the thing that is most poisonous in an industry sense and also in a cultural sense in music is that hyper competitive rivalries that pit artists against each other. And now, like, writing a song, that's not running a race. That's not two sides competing to score a goal. That is like a very
unifying.
Unique, you know, that is a strange process. Sometimes it can be the result of a 10-minute burst of inspiration. Sometimes it can be months or years of work that goes into something. And then you just pit yourself against that person, and then they whatever team they've got behind it. I mean, this is the reduction of how incredible music is and art is to, like, you know, this person against that person. And ultimately, these things are always going to be filtered through the people who are responsible for those awards, whether it be ARIA, who are run by majors or whatnot. You know, I don't feel like that's a true representation of the greatness of all the artists that are trying to make songs and what those songs mean to people. And when they're performing live, when they see people sing those lyrics back to them, those things are really, they're the ultimate. This is at the peak of your artist experience, is understanding how it affects human beings, your friends, your peers, strangers. There's not to try and come up with some sort of justification why you didn't win. This is about trying to redefine how we value this thing. So really, like, the best artist of the year is the ARIA winner. What a sad state of affairs. Like,
pretty subjective.
Yeah, it's and it doesn't even matter that the wrong artist wins, because sometimes the right artist wins. You know, when Sample won, you're going, wow, this is truly a great artist.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Cool. She got the industry recognition. That's cool. But really, her art is not defined by this
one
trophy, you know?
Yeah.
Her art is
Straight
defined
up
by the impact that it has had to change the culture of hip-hop in this country.
And the landscape, yeah.
What an incredible legacy to leave. Like, you write 5 records and you hang around long enough to do that. Like, that's something that I'm super proud of.
Fucking oath.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I mean, I would be bullshitting if I said that awards mean nothing, but I'm constantly trying to redefine it, because also I deal with a lot of artists that have gone from everything from mad depression through to suicidal thoughts, through to relationships breaking up because of the toll that music takes. I see that human experience, and I see the way that the commercial the toll that it takes on the people who are trying to, you know, do it seriously. And when you do it seriously, you have to have some kind of like carrot at the end of it. Because how do you justify all that time? You spend all that time, it's a selfish act. It takes you away from your family. You go on the road. You're not there with your kids when they're coming up. All these different things, these sacrifices that artists make. I see the damage that it has on their lives. Man, I don't want to kind of buy into award shows as having this great meaning when actually, like, that can never be summed up by some industry kind of like pat on the back. Now, fuck that.
And, it's funny because that sort of goes back to, we were just talking before we jumped on, and I was like, fuck, like being happy with like where you're at and just how you're contributing to your family, your friends, your peer group, your culture, like how are you contributing to that fulfills you as an individual? What are your everyday sort of wins? So like, yeah, fuck, I totally feel you.
I feel like these award shows, they do serve a real purpose, and I don't want to rain on people's parade, especially younger artists. What right do I have to tell them not to aspire to win an award?
Yeah.
I did.
Yep.
I just see that there's more to it, and I think it's really important, especially in a management capacity now for me. One of the roles I have is to try and encourage another way of defining success.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that.
Especially how volatile it is these days, like it is so volatile. Like back in the day, you'd only have a handful of MCs vouching for it. But now, and it's so funny because when I was in the States, that was actually a massive eye-opener to me. Like I go to the States and how established hip-hop was. You'd have a fucking guy flipping burgers that could rap you by fucking tenfold, right? And you're thinking to yourself like, it's a real humbling fucking experience when fucking
small pond,
every fucking guy in the corner. But now, from an MC standpoint or an artist standpoint, that has really gone global. You know what I mean? Like, so it is like too many chefs in the kitchen.
One of the realities that we have to try and work our way around now with artists, because I reckon artists in the hip-hop scene here have it way harder than we had it back then, just purely because of the saturation point. So I really feel for a lot of young artists that are coming up now, because what you're really dealing with is being noticed and standing out. What distinguishes you? How do you do that?
Without being Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah,
I mean,
there are pathways, right?
Yeah.
And entertainer pathways, and it does sometimes separate certain people from the pack in their charisma and how much they can entertain, especially on socials. But yeah, I feel for a lot of these young artists. The responsible thing is to instill in these artists that actually there is not a viable career for them. That is the responsible advice to provide to young artists. Am I doing that? Why would I want to just kill dreams?
Yeah.
But you have to sort of somehow get back to a realistic point, because the recorded industry is paying artists less and less.
Oh, yeah.
There's a longer tail, sure, and that's a big part that I would encourage for young artists, is to understand that when you're not getting paid super, because last I checked, going on tour, there's no super contributions to you unless you're paying them yourself. Your royalties in your songwriting is your superannuation. That is hopefully what is going to continue to pay you in old age, where you have missed a big chunk of your life that your peers and your friends from school have not, because they've gone into salaried positions and they've worked their way up ladders. And not that everyone has good opportunities there, but that's one thing that happens with you as an artist, is you don't have that. So you've got ever dwindling amount of money there, and you've got only it's like the 1% of artists now that can get paid, and of that 1%, there's 0.001% of those that are just killing it, and they're millionaires
straight up.
But even if you're in that kind of 98th, 99th percentile, you probably look like you're killing it. You're doing festivals, you've got a lot of streams, but I mean, it's different in every country, but it's good to think about 1 million streams equaling $4,000.
Yeah, it's not a lot of bucks.
So you're talking about we got 1 million streams, we're killing it. Well, yeah, $4,000. You put a lot of time and effort into that. Now, I don't want to kind of dampen people's ideas of chasing this dream. Why would I? Like, that's the whole thing about it. It's part of people.
Yeah.
It's part of who you are. It's you got to express yourself. You got to throw your hat in the ring, you know? And I'm all about that. And I would never say don't do it.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to get closer to trying to have a realistic idea of what's viable. Because then what that does, it doesn't mean that you quit and you leave, and it's not something about being a buzzkill. What it does actually gets you a bit more realistic. So you know that actually stop talking down that part-time job that you're doing. That part-time job's fucking awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
What that part-time job does is it creates stability, a little bit of security. Now that's a privilege.
Yep.
If you have a little bit of financial security, then you can engage in your creative process, like I was talking about before, in a more free, honest form. You know, but if this doesn't succeed, I'm not going to pay rent. Now, how that changes your process, it means it's a different way that you're interacting with it. That part-time job, brilliant. That part-time job is actually something to be celebrated, not sort of thought about as like this obstacle, this sign of failure. Actually, the part-time job is a sign of success.
Yeah,
that's the mentality. And so I don't know how to do that, you know. And but it's a conversation I'm having, because what happens is these artists get to the point where you're not actually making significant money, or you're 10 years down the track and you're like, okay, what now? Because like there's 27,000 other rappers that have come after me, and some of them like, who am I? Like, where do I go from here? Well, that's not good for mental health.
Fucking no way, bro.
Kills people.
100%. And if you put, you know, it's foolish to put, you know, you put all your eggs in one basket, then, you know, like on the chance that it does sort of like, you know, come off the rails, then yeah, you are, you're fucked, and you're setting yourself up for exactly what you said, man. That, you know, going off the rails, that depression kicking in, you know, anxiety of the future as well, because you don't know
breakups, all that. It ripples down, you know, ripples down
straight up.
So people who are in positions of guidance, I don't think it's realistic to inflate like those ideas. I want to bring people back to actually, we want to try and have longevity here. We want to be career artists. We want to do this in a way that means that you keep on doing it. Yeah. Not that you burn out and quit it, you know. And that's I try and talk about these things more because I think it's important, but I'm not coming up in this era, so I don't understand exactly what it's like being a young artist now. That's where my learning comes from. Is like listening to what their experiences are, you know.
100%, man. Yeah. But it's dope to see as well, because, you know, it's good as well that you're not just putting in those like, oh no, well, I come from this time, so, and like I have relative success, so fucking I know the go. It's more like, yo. This is how I was thinking before. Fuck, that might not be the thing now. Like I'm not 100% sure, but then, you know, adapting in that regard of being open to info on how it works now is always going to be a better way for, you know, the guys coming up. Yeah. Last couple of sort of questions. You know, 5 solo albums, man. That's something to be super proud of. Last album though was obviously 2016.
Yeah.
It's a little bit ago now, you know.
I get further apart, man.
Yeah.
The next one it'll be 2026, and after that.
Yeah. That's what, hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you know, where are you at with an artist now? You sort of said it before, you know, like you're becoming less and less at the forefront, really more sort of sitting back. But, you know, obviously you're still an artist, you're still a creative, you know, so, you know, what's the creative process like for you these days? Are you creating as much? You know, is there plans to is there any plan to create in the future, or is it going to be organic? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah. I'm going hard. I'm fucking going hard.
What the fuck were you talking about?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm working every other week on this stuff. It makes sense to me. It helps me balance out first of all, being a participant in the writing process or the touring process continuously informs me and helps me be a bit more grounded. Yeah, I found like there was a while there, because I managed Hermitude and Horror Show, and there was a time there where they were both doing huge tours. Yeah. And I was sitting side of stage watching them, just being like, looking at the crowd, looking at them, looking at the crowd, looking at them, and just being like, how the fuck do they do this? Like, I was actually I mean, I spent
Bit
my whole
fucking
life on
gobsmacked.
stages, right? But I'm watching it going, I don't understand this.
Different
This is-
game, right?
yeah.
Like, yo.
And then I went back on the road with that last record, and you remember all of the whole experience. You remember the sitting around in a venue, bored, you're in a spot where there's no Wi-Fi or whatever. You can't go anywhere, but you just got to stay there. There's like alcohol around. Even if you come into it with a healthy mindset, the tour wears you down.
Yep.
You become increasingly tired. And I'm doing a job, so I'll be working 5 days a week, then I'd be going on tour, or I'd go 4 days a week, then tour 4 days. And after 6 weeks of touring, that's 42 days of every day working.
Fuck.
And that kind of catches up with you. And then you remember, like, that's why people drink on tour.
Yeah.
Like, they're tired and they're short and they're eating bad food because there's only a half an hour spot, and I better not
Fast
eat
food.
now because I've got the gig.
Yeah.
So I'll eat at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
All these
kebab.
different life decisions that happen with touring. Now, that was good for me because I got to remember that when I was making decisions for the bands. I was like, oh, okay, hold on. Yeah, I really feel that viscerally. I remember what it was like in
Yeah.
Perth, getting off that flight, driving down the Margaret River, and you're losing the time, and then you got 2 hours, and you do the calculations, you realize you're on stage by your set time is 2 a.m. But this is about how you route a tour.
Yeah.
So that
Crazy.
That experience of being involved actually is really good for me in a management and in a label capacity.
Yep.
And I you remember what it feels like on release day. Like, oh, no one's talking about it. Fuck everyone. And that helps.
Fuck these guys.
And that helps me as a label person.
Why isn't it me?
Remembering to be an arm's length, so I'm not like riding the roller coaster with the artist, but also being empathetic.
Yeah.
Like, there's something hard to put a finger on. Like when something as big as like you're sharing your music with the world, you're vulnerable,
Yeah,
And
man.
that's easy for an industry person to just be sitting. I'm doing my job. I'm getting paid. I'm
don't
about
care.
to
Yeah,
knock
yeah,
off.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Friday, whatever.
Yep.
It's really good for me to continuously be real close to that experience, so that I can't solve it.
Yeah.
And actually, part of it is knowing you can't solve it. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
that vulnerability of the day, you just have to be kind of. That's why people, get around your artists the artists you like, right?
Yeah.
When they put something out, because it's a weird day, and it's a weird time.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so that.
And it is, but you're right, and you've said it throughout the whole interview, like tonight, right? It's just like, it is. It's like so fucking special, and often, at least from my perspective, a lot of the time, creation comes from a sense of. I mean, at least for like artists that I probably know personally, sometimes there's degrees of trauma that are involved where they become good at an art or a craft because they need to put their head down and actually stay away from something else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a safety net, it's a safety blanket.
Yeah.
So to entrust your safety blanket and your vulnerability, as you say, like that's a very sore point for a lot of people where they're putting it out. And then, and ultimately for that not to be appreciated is a fucking kick in the guts.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you don't have to have bulk streams on that day one, but having like people get around you a bit can make up for whatever is happening in a more commercial sense.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm getting back to the original question. I'm going hard, and I worked a lot last year, then went off the rails something hard, and it was another period of growth. Where there was no easy answers. The producer that I was working with was overloaded and just dropped off the project. And he was pretty pivotal, so I really went through a dark period and eventually did the thing that artists should do and managers should do and labels should do to artists that are going through difficult periods, is not keep them on the deadline. Actually, like the best thing you can do sometimes is go, no. What you need to do is take a month off.
Yeah.
Like 2 months off. Yes, the schedule's fucked. Yes, the strategies, you got to keep on putting music out to feed the algorithm. And yes, you got to tick all these boxes in an industry sense. But if you're not healthy, you're not coming to that creative process from a place that is going to bring the best art out of you.
Straight up.
And sometimes you just need that headspace.
Yep.
And I've learned to do that. And last year I did that too late for myself. But once I did it started freeing things up for me. And so I've come in this year and I'm just like running at it again.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have like 10, 15 songs that are pretty much done. And now it's just about starting to reimagine what they are in the context of what they were going to be last year. Like now that the project sort of changed course.
Path, yeah.
And so now I'm trying to get back to a mentality of just working, and because the enjoyment of writing the songs actually is still a massive thrill. Like I still love the idea of writing that one song. And there's so many of the melodies you come up with, the hooks or the flows or whatever, you're just like, yes, this is the shit, this is the shit. You sit with it for a while, it's like, that's not the shit, that's not the shit.
Yeah.
But
come back.
That moment where it could be the shit, I'm addicted to that.
Yeah.
Like that is alluring. And I'm like, I want to chase that. And I want to find a way to just continuously access that creativity without needing to convince myself that it's related to a release, which is a real big deal. It's hard to put all the time and effort in unless you really are convinced that there's an audience for it, or there's a need to fulfill a deadline or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out that one. I'm not real good at it.
Fuck, it's good. It's dope to hear that you're still at it, man. Because that's again, like I say, the measurement for us is just to see you still actively participating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it keeps people. I think it also keeps people that are involved with you like respecting the fact that you are still engaged.
Yeah.
Because like you say, if you're going to be there as a support for other artists, then fuck it. It's important, like you say, to still be. Even if you might not be as relevant and in tune with every specific detail, there's still elements that you'll experience that and that you have the run with to be able to, facilitate people that you're working with.
Yeah. And I it always changes different parts of your career, but one thing I'm really loving at the moment, and one thing that I loved about the last record that I did was I kind of came through a bit of a tougher period where I was like, oh, no one wants to listen to my shit anymore. Woe is me, or poor me, I don't have that audience anymore. So I finished the whole record, then I released it going, it's cool. No one's going to listen to this. It's not going to be a big thing. And I got to experience it on the terms of my expectations were about as low as what I could have done while still being quietly like, I'm going to fucking give it a shot, right?
Yep.
And I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it so much. And now things have changed so much. And, I'm continuously inspired by so many of the younger artists out there now. But what I'm doing now, I'm like, I get to be a musician that's not trying to compete with all those artists.
Yeah.
Like, I love what they're doing. And so many of these rappers are crazy. And they're singing. I mean, like, even just an act that hasn't blown up, Planet Vegeta, like...
Fucking nice.
I listen to some of this shit, I'm like, I'm not even in the right ballpark. We're not even on the same... They're on another... And then they don't even have a career yet. Like, I mean, they obviously do, but they've got so much to go, so much to give. I listen to them, or A-Girl, so many of these different artists that are emerging now that I'm sort of like... Fuck, I'm glad I'm not competing, firstly.
Yes.
Maybe in an abstract level I am competing, but my mentality is not that I'm competing. My mentality is that I'm like a bit older now.
You're supporting.
And I'm putting music out, but I'm not trying to get into that fast lane. I'm quite happy in my
slow lane.
Yeah. I just got like a little old Corolla. I'm sitting on 80 on the freeway.
Yeah.
And they can zoom past me or whatever, and I'm cool with that. And I enjoy it because I don't have to say that my worth is locked on to being as good as some of these artists are. I get to just be like, no, I'm writing songs that hopefully will get better and better and have a value to an audience, but it's cool if I'm not part of that shit.
Bro, you know what? You're actually making me think of, I'm going to see if I can find it. Do you watch basketball at all?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, anyways, do you know who Steph Curry is?
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm going to try and find it.
He plays for Illawarra Hawks, doesn't he?
No, I'm not giving more than that with a response to that. Hang on a minute.
He kills it. I sometimes see him down at the rule.
I'll ask the next one. How did COVID affect you? Because you said actually last year was not fun.
It broke me. We had a lot of plans, and COVID came along, and it was a lot of growth, and I learned a lot, and it was hard. And my project was a big, key point in how hard it was.
Yeah.
But from a business point of view, like staring down the abyss and going,
What?
What do I do now? Like, we've got all these staff. I have all this responsibility for the staff. How do we support them? And thankfully, JobKeeper stepped in. I have to say, like, it was a huge thing for us that we were able to continue on with that support. Government got no foresight, so they've killed it off now. So I don't know exactly what that spells for this year. But there was also that real culmination of the Black Lives Matter movement, which really exposed to me just how, you know, we had to put up or shut up in as far as how we engage in this culture, not just from an artist point of view, but also our staff. And that was a really tricky one. I must admit, like, I didn't really know what to do there. And there was a lot of closed doors, and there was a lot of hard questions and hard conversations, difficult ones. There were so many difficult conversations last year. But there was also a gift that it gave in reflection and a pause that enabled some of those hard questions not to be rushed and railroaded out of like the time that some of those conversations needed.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to address some of those things, and last year really drove home how important it is for us to have accountability.
Yep.
Not just in the way that we interact in these spaces, but also in female spaces, and what we're doing to actually use the platform that we have at Elephant Tracks to be a bit more vocal, and also, I mean, like I said, put up or shut up. Yep. in how we're investing into some of these spaces and creating more ways to be a better support network for artists and to serve artists better. And so, yeah, COVID was pretty fucked, but it was not without many blessings.
Fuck, man, best way to look at it as well, to be honest. Lastly, anyone you're looking at the moment?
Oh,
A&R, mate?
So many. we just got a new A&R. Her name's Carolina, and she's, we're really excited about what she's going to bring to the table as far as like her ideas and her vision for the label. And I've always been the A&R at ET, and also trying to step away from some of those positions. I mean, this is semi-related to some of the questions that we're asking last year, is like, how do you step back a little bit? How do you, especially me, I'm not like a CEO. I'm the managing director of ET, but it's functional, we're a small business.
Yeah.
I've been there since the start, but I'm trying to work out how to find a way that I can kind of support the vision and the direction of ET, but not just steer it,
Yeah.
And so we're constantly looking at artists. There's so many great artists now. It's just about, like, there's an embarrassment of riches in this country in interstate and in Sydney. And some of them are gems in the rough. Like, there's artists you can tell are amazing, but it's hard to tell about whether they've got the drive. And now,
which is
getting back to that 1%.
Yeah.
If you don't have the drive, you're singing.
Make sure you've got that full-time job.
Yeah,
not even part-time.
Singing at the cafe, and that's good. That's awesome.
We
That's
still
beautiful.
need cafe singers.
You're singing at the, you're busking. You're doing whatever it is that gives you joy with music. You're singing at the party.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful thing. But the difference is the talent's there. There's no question. The talent's on every corner. There's so much talent. It continuously blows my mind. But yeah, the drive is that kind of key ingredient that's hard to tell. I mean, also, sometimes artists don't mature for 3 albums.
Yeah.
And who's giving artists that space now when there's so much competition and so much saturation?
There's Burn next. Yeah.
And sometimes those artists will be the artists that make our country make sense.
Yeah.
It's not just about selling records and going platinum. It's actually about showing all of us who we are and doing it in a way that's not cold and dry. It's like through art and through music. I mean, that's the thing that's the true greatness.
Oh man, 100%. And I think that there hasn't been more exciting time than the last couple of years, in my opinion, with regards to really telling the story that at least I know a lot of us, particularly in hip hop, because we're probably, as a musical culture, you know, so much more aware of, you know, race issues and, you know, even just, you know, minority group issues than any other genre sort of thing, you know. So it actually probably shines much more of a light on what we know to be.
Yeah.
For a long time, I used to go like, you know, how come we don't get like the Australia that I know just is not fucking represented? But now I look at like fucking people from the area that are like busting charts, and I'm just like, yo, it's fucking so dope to see people that I know to be what Australia is to be represented on those charts, you know. So
even just over the weekend, I was thinking about it when I was watching a bunch of grand footage of Hefs and HP Boys and a few of these artists that were on stage at some festival. I think it was on the Goldie, but
what's Goldie?
I was thinking about that because it used to be big Australian acts on the Big Day Out stage or whatever with their Australian flags and shit. It's just real wrong shit, right?
Yeah.
But that was the culture back then with so many white artists. And now you're seeing artists like Hooligan Hefs up on that stage and the whole crowd singing. They all got phones because they know it's a cultural moment.
Yes.
And I love that because I've seen acts like Temper Trap and indie bands, presets, all these things that have their cultural moment where it blows up to such a level of excitement that the crowd is electric.
Yeah.
I've seen that from the side of stage. I've never been part of it, never been in a band that's big enough. But I've seen it and
Next
it
album,
feels,
watch.
it's amazing.
Yes.
Because you're watching this whole crowd just collectively going, they're at this moment. Now they get bigger, those acts get bigger, but they never get that moment back. That is a special moment just to even be in the crowd for.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bunch do that. And I don't know what it was like in the crowd there, but I was watching that footage and I was like, that is a beautiful thing. You know, that's Hooligan Hefs having that moment. And I guess it comes after COVID where there's no stages and festivals.
Yeah.
But I'm watching that just being like,
amplified by that too.
that's not the Hoods. That's Hooligan Hefs. You know, that's mad. That is mad. And I'd have nothing to do with him in a business sort of sense. I just, as a fan, watching that and going, I'm glad that I'm part of this culture. Like I get to see this and I get to kind of be part of the story that
led to
these types of moments.
Fucking
I mean, that is just the ultimate.
Yeah, man. Eloquently put. Jesus, bring a tear to my eye. Cool. I don't know. Have we got questions? Yeah. All right. Excellent. We got Esky on the MIC. Yeah. I mean, sorry, man. Like that's pretty much it for bro. Fucking such a chat, bro. My man. Seriously. Thank you so much for coming in today, man, and just absolutely blessing the shit out of anyone that's listening.
It's really good chopping up with you. I've been looking forward to having a chat for ages. So, you know, thank you so much for having me on.
Man, pleasure. Anytime. Esky, what do we got? What do we got for the man?
From Cohen Williams, what's your favorite type of hip hop, subgenre, or whatever?
Favorite type of hip hop. I guess storytelling is probably where I really, you know, like, I mean, I know it's kind of cliche to name drop him, but Kendrick, he combines that elite craft of, you know, his wordplay and the way that he I mean, his flow is crazy, right? But he also has the hooks, but the storytelling in that is like what separates it for me. And I mean, I have a wide interest in hip hop. I don't love heaps of the, you know, really hectic, loud, auto-tune hip hop, but I appreciate it and I love the melodic element of it. And so I listen to it all, but it's not something that it's not close to my heart.
Yeah.
But I still, you know, appreciate it heaps. But I don't know how to narrow that down to one artist. Like, so I'm just naming Kendrick because he's the easiest one.
Yeah. Nah, the story thing is definitely a thing. That's a very particular skill set to be able to even like, you know, and I do this in workshops with kids all the time. Is like trying to think of something, a story, try and think of a chronological aspect of the story, and then try to fit the rhyme into the, you know, chronology of what you're speaking about, you know, and then take people on a bit of a journey. But it's very fucking particular type of hip hop. Yo.
Next question.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your humanity in an insane industry?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. Maintain your humanity in an insane industry. I think you got to have a good sense of yourself. And yeah, like I said, I think that the thing I'm trying to really embrace is just learning and trying to keep open. I think that's probably what's really important for me now is not thinking that I know what's right, what's wrong. I'm just trying to not be judgmental. I'm just trying to like learn from artists who I don't really appreciate their sonic aesthetic, the style of the music. There's stuff there to learn, and whilst ever you're learning, you are curious, and I'm curious, and that curiosity is what makes things interesting. Because I'm finding little gems, or I'm finding jewels, I'm finding like things about artists that make me inspired. And it's a big deal, actually, because after a while, like, why stick around in an industry? I've actually had those thoughts. I thought, I'll probably leave. I've been in it for ages. Why would I kind of be here forever? Like, this is not what I saw for myself.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the time. I definitely had those thoughts last year. And it's only my excitement about young artists and my feeling like I actually have something to contribute to them. And that's funny because it's not me going, I'm right and I need to bestow my wisdom. It's actually genuine. I'm like, oh no, they're right. They're on the path. They're doing the crazy shit. I'm curious about it. I'm interested. I want to learn more. That element is what made me come back and made me go, no, I'm actually running at this again. I want to try and find a more viable and a more sustainable way for the artists that we work with. That's a big challenge. So that makes me inspired. So that's kind of how I stay sane.
Fucking oath, man.
Last question. When will we see you next on Play School?
Yeah, I didn't even know about that. I had to go and watch it. Can I be honest with you? Like, that to me, I've got 4 kids. That's some like, if there's any measure that you can actually be proud of and say like, yo, you know what I fucking achieved?
Yeah.
I was on Play School.
Hey man, that is daycare cred right there.
Bro, straight up.
That's primary school cred too.
You walk into any school and you'd be like, hey, yo, I don't know if you see me in Play School and shit.
Oh yeah.
But just make sure you treat my kid right, all right?
I get the side eyes from other parents when I'm going to school. I'm just like, Play School. Yeah,
that's me. That's all right. I know. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I had to do that. My whole family would have disowned me if I didn't do it. So, no, that was fun. I would do it again, but I've had my turn.
It is a bit like that, though, isn't it? Like, you get your turn, and then you got to be exceptional to get the call back.
Play School in moderation, that's right.
Yeah, that's
Urthboy
crazy.
Moderation. Thanks. We'll call you.
Hey guys, hey. I said thanks. We'll call you anyway.
I went on Q&A way back in the day, and after it, they were like, "Oh, that was great. That was awesome." And then I got fucking slammed on Twitter, like just people hammering me. "Oh, who's this fucking idiot?" Blah blah blah. And the producer was like, "Yeah, we should get you back on here." Never heard from him again.
Oh,
it's like I did it once. You learn your lesson.
just go home to your wall.
Don't invite me
Tick.
again.
Done it, man. Fuck.
Yep.
Killer, man. Again, thank you so much. Massive shout out to the team. Fucking hectic episode. Ems, love ya. Ricky, love ya. Esky, love ya. Jeff, mate, you know I love ya. Ethan, thank you for coming. Kim came in. I fucking haven't seen this man for too long. I'm going to give that man a fucking hug as soon as I get off here. And, man, again, been a pleasure. Fuck.
Thank you, bro.
I'm excited for this new shit, bro. So, yeah, we out. Peace.